down here at 4717 Liberty, Life on Liberty. Life Vision is giving life to all the people in this area. But we're going out, we're reaching out, because we're loving God, and we want you in here with us, because the love of God is present here.
On this Sunday morning, I receive His grace.
I'm glad that the Lord brought me to life. And I just love everybody.
Hey, this is Pastor Sherry Grant. I'm the senior pastor here at Life Vision, and I'm so honored that you chose to take a listen to this message. I want you to just sit back, relax, enjoy, let God speak to you. I hope He reveals to you some things as you hear this message. Enjoy.
No longer a slave to fear. False fear is false evidence appearing real. It's not real. You ever slept all night and you looked up and you thought you saw something that really wasn't there? That's what fear is. Once you turn the light on. Come on, look at somebody and say, turn the light on. You'll see it's just a shadow. It's not really a monster. It's not really the boogeyman. Come on, it's not Slender Man. They got all these scary movies out here. None of them scary. Y'all sit down. I'm gonna read the word. Be comfortable. Hebrews chapter 12. Thank you all for coming, for bringing your fam Sunday. All the fam say woo, woo, woo. I'm reading from the Message Bible. Y'all pray for my adult children. They're all traveling. Chris is in Peru. Drew and Deanna, they are traveling for his birthday week, and they're in California. So I just thank God that I have a blog on my realistlifecoach.com, and the title of my blog, the theme of my blog is Going Places. And when he texted me yesterday and said, Mom, I just landed in Peru, I said, boy, you are going places. Literally. And I'm proud. Just lift them up in your prayers as they're traveling. I'm reading from the Message Bible. I said I'm going to read Hebrews 12 verses 14 through 17. And then it says, work at getting along with each other and with God. Otherwise, you'll never get so much as a glimpse of God. Make sure no one gets left out of God's generosity. Keep a sharp eye out for weeds of bitter discontent. A thistle or two gone to seed can ruin a whole garden in no time. Watch out for the Esau syndrome, trading away God's lifelong gift in order to satisfy a short-term appetite. You well know how Esau later regretted that impulsive act and wanted God's blessing, but by then it was too late. Tears or no tears. Amen. So I'm going to preach this morning from our series, but I want to title the message this morning, Are You My Brother or My Enemy? Are you my brother or my enemy? And I want to kind of focus on the thought of sibling rivalry. Anybody got any siblings? Anybody ever had any rivalry with them? Yes. Minister Angie, can you turn this heater off before I paint? Okay, sibling rivalry is the antagonism or hostility among brothers and sisters, siblings. And this problem may be one of the oldest problems in humanity. I call it am I my brother's keeper syndrome. So my question for you to write down, who take notes, because we like to take notes. It's a church that studies, a church that does more than just Sunday morning exercises. So my question for you is, and I want you to think about it this week, and your answer is your answer. So this is a judgment-free zone. Your answer is your answer. Do you have an obligation to look out for the well-being of your brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Are there boundaries to this? Or are you required to just look out for them no matter what because you're a Christian? Good questions, right? And so, ironically, one of the primary principles to Christianity is to promote, further, advance the peaceful coexistence of all people, starting with your family. So if that's true, then why don't you act like that with your brothers and your sisters? Some people seem to get along with everyone everywhere else, but can't get along with their brothers. Why is it that you can be polite to everybody else, but rude and nasty and hostile with your brothers and sisters? Could it be that there's some relationships we have where we act less like family and more like enemies? Think about the interactions you recently have had with your siblings. If somebody was watching that, would it be the picture of a Christian bond? Look at somebody and say, hold yourself. Hold yourself together. Hold yourself together, because we're going to go deeper.
Amen.
Sibling rivalry usually centers on competition. And the competition is based on limited resources. So in the animal kingdom, the competition is usually for food. So two animals that both want a limited amount of food, you'll often see them fight each other until one of them manages to kill the other one or drive the other one, run the other one away. Another example of sibling rivalry in nature is with sharks. Baby sharks develop within their mother's womb. The biggest baby shark devours all his brothers and sisters, so he can make sure he secures all the available food and resources for himself. Even eagles, who we compare ourselves to as the most highly evolved creature. Eagles, they make their nest at the highest heights. They go up in mountains or trees. They go up high. And then the first baby eaglet that is born kills all his siblings by pushing them out from the nest as soon as they come out of their eggs. Same motivation. To make sure that they get everything. And they don't have to share with anybody else. I'm preaching so hard. So a similar competition exists, as we know, between human siblings. What's the fight over? Our insatiable hunger, appetite, desire for children to have all of their parents' time, attention, and resources. Why she get that? I remember Chris, I think I told y'all this story before, but Tony, I call him Dad all the time. Tony had brought Drew something. I don't even remember what it was, but he brought Drew something really nice one day. And Chris came home and said, "What great things has he done?" And we saw, like, right at that moment, that was a perfect example of the oldest feeling as if they don't get it, what's he getting it for? So when the first child is born, all the parents' available time and attention is for who? That one alone. See, this is why some of y'all who say y'all gonna have a whole football field of kids, it's not a good idea. Because if you don't have enough time and attention to fairly spread it out amongst them, there's going to be that whole thing of trying to kill each other. Amen. You wonder why they won't get along. Because the first child often feels rather special. Oh, that must be the firstborns. Manifesting. They feel superior. They feel like they are elite. They are the ones to go to. They are second in command. Right? Wouldn't you feel that way too if you got all that attention? Undivided for so long? And so they often get used to these privileged circumstances. Got their privilege card. Firstborn privilege card. So that period of time, even if it's only for a year, they learn to develop a humongous perspective on life. Now, y'all know I'm in psychology, so from a psychology standpoint, Freud said that all children, when they're born, are narcissists. Makes sense, right? Anybody got any little small children? You look tired all the time because you don't get to sleep, and they don't care. You know, you have food. It's like they want your food. They want everything from you. You're broke. You know, all these things, and they could care less. Sounds pretty narcissistic, right? And so they think the world revolves around them. And it's okay for a little child to think that. The problem is, Freud said that if you get to adolescence and you still have this mindset, now your narcissism has become a personality disorder. And a personality disorder is a mental illness. So, all right. The child and so it's the parent's responsibility to help children understand that the world does not revolve around you. It's the parent's responsibility. Now, if the parent is a narcissist, we're in trouble. So the child who's used to getting undivided attention, as soon as another child comes into the family, now this child who used to get undivided attention now has to share the attention. They have to share the money. They have to share the resources. And so what happens to older siblings while all these new competitors come on the scene is a rivalry takes place. My mother told me when I was born that my brother Dwayne used to bite my fingers. And, you know, and do stuff. And it's like you love your sibling, but there's something about them that you don't like. It's the fact that they are now taking away a resource that you once had to yourself. Somebody say, I get it. But welcome to sibling rivalry. And so this morning in the text, we basically look at the end result of Esau. And the whole scenario, we talked about it last week with Isaac and Rebekah. We see how they prayed for 20 years to have a child. And then God finally answers their prayers, gives them not only one son, but two sons. I love God's sense of humor. Because you pray for something, God will give you the desires of your heart. And here's what we got to do. We got to be ready for what we ask for. Come on, we gotta be ready, because many of us pray for company, and we pray for family, we pray for somebody to spend our time with, we pray for that relationship, and you got it. And one thing about it is oftentimes our relationships can be the biggest source of frustration in our life. Don't say amen if they're sitting next to you.
Praise the Lord.
Stay quiet. So Isaac and Rebekah got 2 sons. And so we saw Esau in the text. And Esau, if you study anything about him, he's a very hairy person. Red and hairy. I read one account of him, and somebody said he probably was very ugly. We don't know. But, he's hairy. There's hair all over him. And we're told that about him over and over. And so he's somebody who, in our text, if we look at it deeper, he made a decision in a moment. And that decision kept him from being able to get where he really wanted to go in life. And that doesn't sound too different from many of us, does it? No. The only problem for Esau is the person who played part in him not being able to get to the place that he wanted was his own brother. And I don't know about you, but there's nothing worse than being hindered by your brother. Nothing worse than being held back by your sister. Nothing worse than being held back by your family. The person, the people who were supposed to have your back, the people who were supposed to be in your corner, the people who were supposed to be pushing you forward instead are pushing you backward. And this is the situation for Esau. Esau loses out on what should have been his, dealing with a tricky brother. So in Hebrews 12:16, it says, watch out for the Esau syndrome. Trading away God's lifelong gift in order to satisfy a short-term appetite. So what trade did he make, you're asking? Long story short, Esau, the grandson of Abraham, and y'all remember Abraham, God gave him this ridiculous promise. God told him that, he was going to be blessed, his descendants was going to be blessed, and he was going to bring a Messiah, a Savior, the hero of all heroes. Hello. Jesus was going to come through his line, through his family. So when Abraham had his first son, Isaac, this promise from God was passed on to him as the next in the bloodline. And so then Isaac has these 2 sons, Jacob, Esau. And even though they were twins, Esau was born moments earlier, making him the firstborn. And we talked a little bit on Tuesday night about the one that grabbed the heel. But Esau was the firstborn, right? Meaning the inheritance and the promises from God were now passed on to him. But here's the kicker. Esau did not end up experiencing any of the things promised to him as the firstborn. He gave up all that God wanted him to do in and through his life. And I'm sure somebody that didn't read the story right now is wondering, what did he get for it? Figuring he must have got a pretty awesome prize for giving up his birthright. Right? Wouldn't you think? Like, what would it take for you to give up your birthright, your inheritance? Had to be something big. Esau gives up his birthright, his inheritance, for a bowl of soup. That's a bad deal, isn't it? He clearly was not a good negotiator. But that's the way it went down in Genesis chapter 25. Esau comes in one day from a hunting trip. He's hungry. His brother is cooking. And so this already tells you they're both very different. And this is the thing we need to understand in the family, that there is diversity, and everybody's allowed to be different, and everybody's allowed to be whoever it is that God called them to be. Just because we are family, it doesn't mean we need to be carbon copies of one another. We ought to be able to appreciate the uniqueness in one another and complement it. Oftentimes you find that people are not able to complement one another if they're competing with each other. And so they had different tastes in everything. You're thinking about that about your own siblings, aren't you? So when Esau came in from his hunting trip, right at this moment, Jacob realized, aha, here's my moment. Now, if you know anything about what Jacob's name means, his name means trickster, deceiver, supplanter. And see, that's why you got to know the nature of the people who you're in relationship with. Come on here. You have got to get a little more sophisticated in learning the people who you are in relationship with. You've got to go deeper than the surface, and talk about some things and spend some time. See, this is why fellowship is important, because you find out who you are like and who you aren't like. You find out the character of people when you fellowship. This is why some people run from fellowship, because you don't want people to find out how you are. But when you are in a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a family relationship, you sit down, you eat with one another, you talk to one another, you know the weaknesses and the strengths of the other person. And so Jacob, he understood where his brother's weakness was. His appetite. So right at this moment when he comes in hungry, he says, this is the moment that can alter my life. So right in the moment he sees his brother is in need, and he starts looking out for his needs. Come on, see, this is where the tension in most of our relationships are, because we're trying to meet another person's needs, and they're really, So there's no one like family who knows what your weaknesses are. He knows what his brother's weaknesses are. You know, it's only your brother that can call out, you know, you don't forget you used to pee in the bed. You know what I'm saying? As soon as they get mad, they try to remember the stuff you used to do. It's like nobody can hit low like your brother or your sister. They know some stuff about you, and in that moment of weakness, they be like, Don't nobody know you can't read. You be like, hey, why you have to go there? Brothers and sisters, family will often use your weaknesses to help promote their cause. And this is the reason why some of y'all can't get your family to come to church, because you act like you're holy all week long. And they like, no thanks, I'd rather not go to heaven with you. If heaven's gonna be like being around you all day, never mind. So Jacob knows his brother's weaknesses. Look at somebody and you say, you know your family's weaknesses. And then I want you to challenge yourself to stop focusing on their weaknesses. To stop looking for opportunities to remind them how weak they are and how messed up they are. One of the challenges for many of us is we can see what's wrong with everybody else, but we can't see what's wrong with us. And so Jacob sees his brother weak and says, here's my moment to overtake him. And this is a dangerous kind of relationship to have with somebody, where you trust somebody, but somebody will sit back and wait to see you down. And when you're down, they'll, in such a passive, aggressive way, take what belongs to you. He says, I'll give you some of this soup, but you gotta give me something in exchange. You know, we used to do that kind of stuff. right? You know, you got a hungry brother or sister. You wait until they finish eating their food. And then you start dangling your food in front of them. And they say, I wish I could have some more. Well, you're going to have to bring me breakfast in bed for the next week. You're going to have to clean my... You just make up some crazy deal with them. And right in that moment, because they're weak, they fall for it. And so for Esau, right in a matter of moment, in one moment, he gives Jacob everything God had promised him. He literally gave up being in the bloodline of Jesus Christ when he ate that soup. He ate the soup it was a reckless, foolish, irresponsible decision. And it's easy for all of us to come down on Esau like, Dad, boy, you must be hungry. It's like, y'all, I love my 600-pound life. And they'd be like, I just can't stop eating. I just can't stop. The lady was going to get on the plane so she could go see Dr. Now. So she said, I had to buy 2 seats. It's so embarrassing. When I get into the airport, it's like they must be reading something. When I get into the airport, everyone is looking at me. So she's in the wheelchair and they're rolling her through the wheelchair through the airport. And she's like, but before I get on the plane, I really do need something to eat. There's nothing really healthy around here. I really would like a burger and some fries and a soda. But I really hope Dr. Now helps me lose weight. My husband would be like, you watch some weird shows. But it's like, you look at Esau, you're like, dang, he must have been hungry. But how many times have we been in the same situation where we have allowed our appetite, what we want in the moment, in the flesh, to control what happens to us in the future? You look at people, you look at, say, a man that cheats on his wife. And you finally see the woman that he cheated on her with. Bowl of soup. You gave up. Somebody got that. It's like you start thinking about the stupid decisions we make in the moment. That you would give up all that good stuff you had for somebody who don't have no teeth, cross-eyed. Like, what were you thinking? See, some of y'all being phony, but I'm talking to a few real people in here. That you would allow something so ridiculous to control your future. Amen. And this is what we have to start looking at when we start looking at the decisions that we make. How is this going to affect my future? I know I want to cuss them out right now, but I still need a job. See, going off at work is the equivalent of a bowl of soup. Yes. Some decisions that we make are equivalent to a bowl of soup. Yes, amen. You want this Coca-Cola bottle shaped girl? She a gold digger. She don't have no character, no integrity. And guess what? The shape changes. The Coca-Cola turns into a 2-liter. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you look at people, you give up quality for something that is equivalent to a bowl of soup. Come on, hit somebody next to you and say, wake up. Stop giving up your future. Stop giving up your destiny to stuff that is equivalent to a bowl of nothing. So the truth is, we're all capable of doing exactly what Esau did. Trading in minutes what we are going to regret for decades. See, you gotta look at it like this. You know, I see things visually. The enemy is somewhere in some kitchen, hooking up something you like. Because see, that's how he's gonna come. He's not gonna tempt you with something you don't like. He's gonna tempt you with the thing that he knows is gonna get your appetite. The thing that is going to make you drool. The thing that is going to make you say, I need that. And even right now, you ought to identify that thing. And you ought to deal with it. And you got to address it. And you got to be so wise as to run from it when you see it coming. You've got to avoid it. You got to put yourself in new circles, in new families. Come on, in new surroundings, in new company. Because if you keep on doing things that trade off your future success for a moment, then you'll find yourself going backwards when there's so much greatness and destiny already over your life. See, the promise of God, the blessing of God is just that. It's up to you to go and get it. So you are either making decisions in your life to go closer to the promise of God or further away from the promise of God. And it's sad that you would have a situation where your own brother is instrumental in helping you to lose what it is that God had for you. But the enemy's doing what he's supposed to do. He's cooking. He's cooking. He's got it on the stove, slow cook. You know? So it's good when you eat it. Falling off the bone, right? And he's going to serve it up to you at the perfect time. In that moment of fatigue, in that moment of frustration, in that moment of tiredness. And this is why you got to guard yourself against allowing yourself to become tired. You got to guard yourself. You got to watch the company that you surround yourself with when you are tired. See, it's not that you can't be tired. It's you can't be vulnerable and tired in the presence of people that will take advantage of your vulnerability. So he'll wait until you're at your lowest point. He'll wait until you're feeling unloved, feeling unappreciated, feeling like your needs haven't been met, feeling like you're completely worn down, stressed out, anxious. And right in that moment, that stew gonna hit your nose. And you'll feel like it's all of your happiness is attached to what's in that dish. And then it'll also make you think the promise of God for your life is too far off. I might as well enjoy this right now. See, this is where, the terms in this culture now are like YOLO. Right. You only live once. But when you look at the culture now, young people now, they got Zan. What's the stuff? They got K2, Lean. Oh, you know what it is. Perks. Adderall, Miley, come on, call them out. You know what they are. Alcohol, all of these things that come and in the moment, they hit your appetite because you want to be lit. Yeah. And the reason you want to be lit is because you're around a bunch of other people that want to be lit, and they're fatigued and they're frustrated and they're probably creative and they probably have mad gifts on the inside of them but don't have enough character to take them to the place where their gift can keep them and sustain them. And so what God is trying to do in this season, he's trying to perfect your character and your integrity so that when you get to that place where your anointing is seen and other people can relationships, stimulants. I know people that they got to take trips because they want to get away from the life that they live.
Amen.
The promise of God is not so far off. Look at somebody and say, the promise of God is not so far off. But we develop an I don't care attitude when we don't see it coming into focus. When the thing that God promised us, it seems so far away. And then it seems like other people are getting it. It seems like it's working for other people. That's why you need to detox from social media. Because if you allow yourself to focus on what other people are doing. See, I use social media for ministry only. I go on, post what God tells me to post, and I'm off. I don't say happy birthday to everybody in the world. I say happy birthday to people that I care about. That's it. And then I'm done. I'm not going around scrolling to see what you saying, what you doing, how you living, what you got. No, because here's one of the biggest problems with the culture today is that's why you're depressed. Because instead of you focusing on your future and your destiny, you're watching other people live their life. And watching other people live their life means you're missing out on living your life. So yes, you can inspire. Yes, you can encourage. Yes, you can promote your brand. But if you allow it to consume more time than you allow God to consume, then something is wrong. My toe hurts. My head hurts. Look what I'm eating. Walking my dog. It's like, what is wrong with you? And it's a trade-off. You ever been on the internet and you looked up and you've been on there for an hour? And you realize you wasted all of that time? Time you could have wrote the book, time you could have wrote the song. Come on, time you could have recorded something, time you could have made something to sell. Come on, time you could have cooked something, you could have did some hair. Come on, you could have made some money. You ain't making no money on that. I be wondering, like, do you get paid? But the payment for many of you is attention. That's the pot of stew that the enemy can feed you. And it's robbing you of time. Do you know you're not getting no younger? Dude, mother saw that and fell out. Don't trade what you want most for what you want right now.
Amen.
And know this, when your stomach gets empty, your standards get lower. That's why, financial fasting, when we did our consecration month in January and we did financial fasting, I took on something during that month that I continued. So, because how many of y'all go to the grocery store when you're hungry? You go to the grocery store when you're hungry, you just be buying dumb stuff. Little Debbie's. Why did I buy this? You just come home and you're like, what in the world? You spent all this money, you got a whole cart of juice. Like, you're just not thinking right. It's a bad idea to go grocery shopping on an empty stomach. So during financial fasting, I went and I did a membership on Instacart. So Wegmans is right near my house, so they deliver my groceries for $9.95 a month. No other charge. $9.95 whenever I want. I just go on and make my list. That way I am not consumed with impulsive purchases. Like, you walk past the bakery, you're like, whew. But think about those things in your life. Like, some of you need to drive a different route. Stop driving by her house. There are other ways to get to work. There are other ways to get home from work. Come on. There are other ways to travel where you need to go. You don't need to keep going in places that catch you and get you. It's like a bowl of soup. Here's the biggest problem for me in this whole story. Jacob is the one who sabotages Esau. It's not somebody down the street. It's not somebody at the school. It's his own flesh and blood. You got to ask people, are you my brother or my enemy? See, here's the thing that binds us together. The thing that binds us together is, what are you in pursuit of?
Yes. Amen.
What are you in pursuit of? See, these two brothers, there comes a point where they actually act like brothers. You've seen it with your siblings. No matter how much you guys fight each other, at one point, you can remember a time where there was some peace. So they come to a place of normalcy in their relationship, but it doesn't start that way. In the beginning, we talked about on Tuesday night, they're crushing each other in Rebecca's womb. The mother carrying him was like, what? Why is this happening to me? But by the end of the story, they're evolving. They're growing. Come on, they're changing. And I'm worried about some of you because you're getting older, but you're not growing. You still have the childish, competitive nature ruling you. You still have ego ruling you. You're still like the narcissist. Come on, that you're allowed to be when you're an infant. Come on, but you always need to be the best. You always need to be the first. You always need to show that you're superior to other people. Come on, there's something wrong when you get to a place where you're older, but you're still empty. It's a sign that you're still hungry for something. I'm closing, but do you think Jacob would have gotten Esau to make this deal if he had approached him at the table after he ate a full meal? See, this is why coming into the house of the Lord and getting into a place where you can be taught and trained from God's mind, God's heart. It's going to be the difference of you walking out of here feeling full and walking out of other places feeling empty. If Esau had come upon Jacob making his stew after he had a full breakfast, he wouldn't have gave up what belonged to him. And so it is for you. If you're unclear about your calling, it's going to cause you to put a lower value on yourself than you deserve. And see, the enemy has tremendous timing. He'll make sure he shows up with temptation just when you and your boo had a fight. Just when you had some friction at work. Just when something has gone wrong, somebody has let you down, he'll swoop in with some comfort sin. And it's just the thing that'll cheer you up for the moment. But when you know who you are, come on, look at somebody, say, do you know who you are? You're not going to just let anybody else tell you what you're worth. Like, what belongs to me is worth more than that. What's in me is worth more than that. How dare you? Actually, you ought to be offended by some of the things that people try to lure you in with. Come on, if you leave out of here with nothing, I want you to leave out of here with a righteous indignation that nobody can just hand anything to you. That's unacceptable. And I think what happens for many Christians is you become too passive and weak and you excuse too much stuff. And that's why the enemy has you eating soup instead of eating the destiny that God has for you. You're not going to have the space or the time to fall for stupid things when God is the one who's steering your life. When you're full of His word, when you're full of His direction, when you're full of hearing His voice, His wisdom, then what the enemy has to offer you has no weight or value. It can be a hard thing to do, making right choices right now. But what happens when your future is yelling louder than your now? Come on, I'm talking to some people in here today. If you just caught a glimpse of what God has for you, a glimpse of what God has for you is enough for you to say no to things that are meant to rob you of the great assignment that God has over your life. Instant gratification gonna keep you back from ultimate satisfaction. When you're tempted to do something that could take you away from where God wants you to go, you gotta remember, I'm worth more than that. Come on, y'all stand up. Look at somebody and say, you worth more than that. You're worth more than that. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. It's time to go up. Go up higher. Go up in your character. Go up in your standards. Go up in what you will accept and what you won't accept. The older sibling was given the birthright because they were the one that was supposed to take on the responsibility of the family. They were the ones who were supposed to properly, with wisdom, divide up the inheritance. Some of you, your character is not in that place because you'll allow yourself to be manipulated by people. This is why if you call yourself a leader and nobody's following you, that means you haven't proven in natural things to be able to handle spiritual things. See, an inheritance was a spiritual thing, but it had natural application to it. See, you got to be spiritual not to have favoritism. You got to be spiritual to be able to give people what they deserve. You've got to be spiritual enough to say and make mature decisions. You got to be somebody who's not overly concerned with your title, not overly concerned with your position, not overly concerned with pleasing people. You cannot be a people pleaser if you want an inheritance from God. You got to be somebody that's not greedy, because you got to be willing to not hoard everything for yourself and watch your brothers and your sisters struggle. See, God changes Jacob's name from deceiver, trickster, supplanter to Israel. One who sees God, one who prevails with God. It's going to take us seeing God to go through that transformation, where we're no longer those weak things that people know about us. But now people are speaking of the strength in us. See, I want it to be that people would begin to no longer talk about the old me, but to talk about the new me, the one who God sees. Come on, the one who sees God. See, because the one who God sees is the one who sees God. It's going to take us wrestling. Another version says that he's the one who wrestles with God. Look at somebody say, I know you're wrestling with God. That's a good place to be. just know that he wins. He wins. Stay in that fight. Stay in the fight, but guess what? He wins. You're going to come out different. You're going to come out different. Listen, you're going to come out different. And the things that you struggled with before won't be the same struggles you have now. This story shows us no matter how messed up your relationship is with anybody, there's hope. And the hope is only in you getting closer to God. Jacob was only able to change his nature as he saw God. You cannot see people right until you see God right. Somebody say, Lord, help me. And he will. He will. He will help. Do I have any witnesses that he will help you?